Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So today, I want to do a real quick video about this uh, situation that came up. I just really read about it yesterday, and I thought it was intriguing. It's like when you first read the title, it catches your attention, and then you read a little bit further and you find out what really happened. But it did catch my attention. But I want to discuss another question having to do with what actually happened with this story and what actually didn't happen. So the name of today's video: we do not accept Black people at the hotel. Brazilian artist has reservation canceled at Amsterdam hotel because he's Black. Sounds outrageous, right? I mean, in 2024. All right, before I get into this story, make sure you like this video, share this video, drop a comment in the comment section, subscribe to the channel, click on the notification bell. I'm going to get to this video kind of quick, but it is intriguing. It's funny, and I mean, it opens up more for dialogue on the question that I'm going to present to everybody. So let's get directly into the video for today. Okay, so this is the guy in the middle of this story, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this. Why am I talking about this story today? Because, as you know, what I talk about on the blog, blackbraziltoday.com, almost 4,000 stories over there, articles, and also here at Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, I talk about Brazil from the perspective of race, specifically dealing with the Black population, a Black population that I will say that I honestly can't say how many Black people there are in Brazil. You've got widely diverging opinions. One that says, oh, there's 115, 120 million Black people in Brazil. Others that say, no, there's about 24 million Black people in Brazil. So this huge disparity. Why is that? Because when we consider the category of preto in Brazil, which means specifically Black, whereas pardo, meaning brown or mixed, means people who have some level of racial admixture in their, genetic background. So the only way you can come to 115, 120 million Black people in Brazil is if you include pretos and pardos, Blacks and browns together. If you just use people who specifically identify as just preto or Black, you're only going to have between 22 and 24 million. For me, I think both. One is a drastic undercount and the other one is a drastic overcount. So to me, the number of Black people is somewhere between those two figures. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if there's somewhere between 50, 75 to 80 million Black people in Brazil. It just depends. Everybody will have a different opinion about this. It also depends on what you consider to be Black in Brazil. It depends also on how Brazilians see it. Brazilians are going to see what an American might see as Black. A Brazilian might look at the same person and say that person is not Black. So I don't think we'll ever have a clear consensus on how many Black people there are in Brazil. The other reason I want to bring this up is because we know that for years it was pretty normal that persons of visible African ancestry just didn't define themselves as Black. In the past, you'd have people say, "Yo no sou negro, no sou negro." I'm not Black. People would, the persons themselves who we are talking about, and Brazilians would also classify a person as being a mulatto, a moreno, a pardo, a mestizo, anything but Black, because defining oneself as preto or negro, both meaning Black, was considered an insult. And so most people spent most of their lives trying to avoid this classification. I did a story a couple of weeks ago where it was just like the girl who had just had a baby switched her baby's classification from pardo to preto because she just saw that his shade of skin tone had changed. He had got darker, a little bit darker. And I'm like, most people were looking at that baby like, okay, he got a little bit darker, but he was Black even when he was born. So what are you talking about? But it's this point, like, don't put preto on your child's birth certificate. He's going to have to go around in life with that horrible tag on his birth certificate. And this just shows you the way that people see the word preto or negro in Brazil, even though that's changed in the last couple of decades, specifically because Black social movements have pushed, look, take on your identity. There's nothing wrong with being Black. Black is beautiful, negro, e lindo, as they say. We have a vast history. So you should proclaim yourself as being Black. So after decades of this promotion of Black identity, now you got more and more people identifying as Black who 20, 30 years ago probably would not have done it. And I would argue that this guy that I'm talking about today, if this was 1990, 1995, or even 2000, I would say this guy probably wouldn't define himself as Black. That's just me. I could be wrong. That's just my opinion because I know how Brazilians saw race 25, 30 years ago. And I know there were just a lot of people who would do everything they could to deny or distance themselves from a Black identity. So then the other question that comes in, and this has come up quite a bit in social circles, does Brazil look at itself and how it defines itself and classifies itself according to color and race in a vacuum? Is it to say that Brazil can have its own identity separate from the rest of the world and say, look, we don't say these people are Black. These people are morenos, they're mulattoes, they're pardos, they're mestizos. We're just Brazilians. Okay, but what happens is that a lot of times when Brazilians of visible African ancestry, or even those who just look mixed, will go overseas and people will be just like, I don't know how you see yourself, but I see you as Black. So then the question is, what is more important? I mean, how should this work? Should this work? Okay, Brazilians have their own, how they see themselves in terms of color in the country, but then they go overseas and other people don't see them. They see them as, sometimes people will just see them as Black. Like, okay, you define yourself as you want, but I see you as Black. Which has more weight between a person's personal racial identity versus the classification that put people who see them label them? In other words, I'm saying if this person sees himself as a mestizo or a pardo, meaning some, mixed to whatever degree, and I see him as Black or other people see him as Black, which category has more weight? The person's or group of people that's looking at the person, or the person, how the person himself or herself identifies himself? That's the question that always comes down to, right? I'm curious to know how you all think about that, because I'm saying definitely we should agree that wherever, when we had this idea in the United States of a one drop rule, I've said numerous times, even though people have accused me of this, I have never said I accept the one drop rule. Okay. If a person happens to look white and they may have, 4, 5, 6 generations back, they had a Black person in their family. If that person looks white, to me, that person is white. The only time I diverge from that idea is that if I can visibly see that the person has African ancestry, then my idea is going to change, because there's a very strict, narrow, we'll say, path of what you would consider white in the United States. So I don't subscribe to the one drop rule, but at the same time, I will say that if a person sees that you have African ancestry, they're likely to identify you as Black. Okay. So that's how I see that. I want to hear what other people have to say about this topic. So then the question for today is race in Brazil versus other countries. Okay. People who classify themselves as white in Brazil get on a plane, go to another country, and all of a sudden they're not white. Okay. So how do you see that? Should Brazil be able to see itself in a vacuum? Like, okay, in Brazil, this is how we do it. We don't have to respect the boundaries of other countries, which is legitimate to a point. But if a person leaves Brazil and everywhere they go, they've been classified as brown for their whole life, and all of a sudden they go to several countries, like, well, okay, you can think you're white, you can think you're brown if you want, but I see you as Black. Should Brazil be able to, exist in its own vacuum? That's my question. And what has more weight between a person's personal identity and the classification that other people see them, or how other people see them? Which do you think has more value? Which one should matter more? So with that said, let me get into this story. Brazilian artist has reservation canceled in an Amsterdam hotel because he's Black. But check out what happened. In a statement, the hotel claimed that it did not send the message and that it was a scam. Okay, you see it written here. Hotel Plantage acabou de enviar uma mensagem, which means the Plantage Hotel ended up just sent a message. Okay. So let's get a little bit further into this. On his Instagram profile, Brazilian painter Wallace Pato, I know people in Brazil, they'll pronounce it as Wallace, so Wallace Pato, exposed a case of racism that occurred during a trip to Amsterdam in the Netherlands on Wednesday the 30th. Wallace claims that the Plantage Hotel canceled his reservation because he was Black. In the screenshot of the message the artist received by email, the hotel says, "We don't accept Black people in the hotel." So this is what he posted this on his Instagram channel. Obviously he was outraged after he received this message. But is this what really happened? So let's keep going on. For those who don't understand the message, it says, "Hello, your reservation has been canceled. Sorry, but we don't accept Black people in the hotel. Holland, eternally colonialist. Leave us alone." So this is what he wrote in Portuguese for people who didn't understand because the message from the hotel came in English, or I'll say apparently from the hotel. You'll see why in a minute. It says, Olá, sua reserva foi cancelada. Desculpa, mas não aceitamos pessoas negras no hotel. Holanda, which they call the Netherlands, eternamente colonialista, nós deixa-me em paz, he wrote. So that's he translated the message and how he was feeling. And, he wrote to his followers in Portuguese, right? So this is the guy, Wallace. In his stories on Instagram, Wallace also vented, I just want to live in peace, to be treated equally, if possible, also loved. Okay, so again, the message that he received, the hotel positioned itself on this particular situation. In a statement, Hotel Plantage said that the message was a type of phishing scam and denied that it had sent the message to Wallace. I mean, to be real, when I first saw this, I'm like, this can't be real. I mean, even if an establishment is openly, well, let's say, if they're not openly racist, but they have racist, sentiments among the management and the people that work there, I doubt seriously that they would actually put a message like this and reject somebody openly, say, we don't accept black people in this hotel because of the social ramifications. They would probably get lawsuits and all sorts of things. So I questioned this when I first saw it. Like, did they really write this message? Really in 2024? So then, as it turns out, the hotel is saying, we didn't write that message. This is the type of phishing. So somebody got a hold of this account and sent this guy this message, but it wasn't the hotel. Phishing is an electronic fraud technique that aims to obtain personal information illegally. The term comes from the English phishing, which means to fish, and refers to the way in which scammers use bait to trick their victims. Here's what the establishment says. At Hotel Plantage, we stand for inclusion and respect for all. We are treating this issue very seriously and working closely with Booking.com to investigate and prevent any future incidents. Please be assured that your reservation has not been canceled and that we will never send discriminatory or inappropriate messages, which is what I first thought when I first read this story. We sincerely apologize for any discomfort or confusion this may have caused, and thank you for your understanding and continued trust. So then somebody who read his story on Instagram reacted, and she kind of saw the same thing that I saw. So one of his followers on his Instagram channel responded and said this: I have absolutely no doubt that this is a fake. Even if the hotel was run by racist people, do you think they'd be stupid enough to expose themselves like that? Dutch law forbids this kind of conduct. At the very least, the establishment would be closed down and ostracized. I'm not saying that the guy is lying, but this is a lot of spam, hacking, or something like that. So the bottom line here is this looks like fake. Look like he got duped. He looked like he got deceived. Somebody got a hold of the hotel's, I don't know, email messaging or the messaging that they use for Booking.com for reservations. They got a hold of it and sent him a message in English saying, hello, your reservation has been canceled. Sorry, but we do not accept black people to this hotel. So whoever wrote this, whether it's somebody over in Europe or somebody in the Americas, I don't know. We can't say who said this, but it was written in English. I'm sorry, we do not accept black people to the hotel. So, I mean, what I'm saying is whoever knew his image or knew what he looked like, obviously they put like, okay, they saw this person as black because that's what they said. We do not accept black people. So this is what my question is. Let's imagine that this really happened. It actually is as absurd as it sounds. Let's say he goes over to Holland and he identifies himself as a moreno. I'm brown. I'm mixed. I'm pardo. I'm mestizo. Let's say he sees himself as mixed or not black. He goes over to Holland and people looking at him like, okay, fine. That's how you see yourself, but we see you as black. You look like a black guy to me. Which one of those classifications has more weight? The way the person identifies him or herself, or the way the people looking at him see him or her? So that's the reason why I wanted to talk about this today, because as I've said, even in Brazil itself, a person could live in the majority white region of Brazil, the three most southern states of Brazil. A person who has been black all their lives and have light skin and always been classified as a light skinned black in the south of Brazil, all of a sudden gets on the plane and goes to the Northeast and people see that person as white or mestizo. Or that person gets on the plane and goes to the United States and all of a sudden, well, I don't know how you see yourself. Maybe you don't see yourself as black, but here we're going to see you as black. So that's why I wanted to ask this question. Once you find out that this is kind of a scam, it's kind of actually kind of funny when you get to the bottom of it. But my question is, again, race in Brazil versus other countries, personal identity versus classification of persons who are not the person in question. How do you all see that? I'm just curious. Anyway, want to start this conversation. Drop a comment in the comment section, like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, click on the notification bell so you know when I put up another video. With that said, I'm going to end the video here and request that you all come back. Check out the next video that I post here at Black Brazil Today.